Well, crews were mobilised from Kent Fire and Rescue Service at around 7:30 this morning, and when we attended, booked an attendance, we found over 100 vehicles involved in a road traffic collision, with a number of people trapped in their vehicles. Initially, we've sent 7 appliances to this incident over the course of the duration of the job, and we've released 6 people from individual vehicles and assisted with a number of motorcyclists who were injured.
Okay, is this one of the largest scale car crashes that you've seen here?
Certainly from my perspective, I've never been to an incident which has involved so many vehicles over such a large area. And that was one of the complexities of this particular incident. We had to use our crews to basically sectorise the incident or portion it up into different areas to enable to identify where the casualties were and then to deal with them as almost separate incidents.
Well, how did you do that? As you said earlier, there were different parts of the scene. How did you know what was the most important?
Well, the initial crews did a really good job in doing that. When they booked an attendance, they were able to carry out a very thorough assessment of the incident and literally identify which people needed rescuing first. They liaised very closely with the police and importantly with the ambulance personnel on site, and the ambulance personnel were able to identify those people that they wanted out first, and we were able to prioritise those casualties and then methodically work through the incident, and as I say, we assigned a crew and a fire engine to each one of the people trapped.
Looking at the scene now, how different is it compared to this morning? It's obviously beautiful sunshine, and earlier on it was very foggy. The conditions were awful, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean the weather's bizarre. When we turned up here this morning, it was thick fog, pea soup fog, and now, as you can see, it's incredibly hot. And that's been one of the issues actually with regards to managing the incident. We've had 200 people who have been walking wounded, if you like, with minor injuries, shock, cuts and abrasions. And they've been getting very hot, dehydrated, and we've been, Kent Fire and Rescue Services played a part in providing water, building shade for them, and just to make sure that their welfare arrangements were catered for while they were waiting to be repatriated with their cars.
And how surprised are you, or how, I suppose, thankful are you that no one has now seriously injured?
I'm incredibly grateful that nobody's been killed, and I think if you speak to all the emergency service personnel here today, everybody is very surprised that nobody's lost their life, but also very thankful that that's not the case.
For me personally, having been a police officer for over 20 years, this is most definitely the most significant incident I've been to in terms of the number of vehicles involved, yes.
I mean, just tell us what happened this morning, just briefly.
Well, what we know is that around 7:15, we know it was very foggy. We know that initially a collision occurred involving vehicles coming Sittingbourne bound, just as the first vehicle involved came off the bridge. We're not sure yet what caused that initial crash, but a collision occurred. Subsequent to that, a number of vehicles then collided with vehicles that were caught up in that, and then we had several incidents occur across the bridge. So some vehicles were able to stop, other vehicles were involved in collisions behind that, and what happened ultimately when the emergency services arrived, it was found that there was an extended scene right back across the bridge to the Sheppey side. There were a number of vehicles, in fact there were 100 vehicles with significant damage. A number of other vehicles in amongst those that didn't have damage but were caught up in the incident. In terms of numbers of people, 200 people approximately went through a triage through the medical services here. Fortunately most of them weren't seriously injured. However, 35 people I believe were taken to local hospitals, and 8 people unfortunately did receive serious injuries, so thankfully none were life-threatening.
How are investigations going at the moment?
Well, investigations are proceeding well. It's always quite a complex and lengthy procedure to work out how a crash has occurred. Particularly when you've got this many vehicles, that's obviously multiplied several times. So there's a balance for us between gathering evidence and obviously seeking to get people away from the scene, getting this very important road open so that we disrupt the community as little as possible. So we're looking to draw that balance, but at the same time have a proportionate investigation. I would anticipate that we'd be looking to have the road reopened hopefully within the next 4 to 5 hours.
That's it?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously there are talks of this bridge, perhaps the lighting may be a factor, particularly the fog as well.
Yes.
What are your sort of initial thoughts?
Well, as is always the case, if we investigate a serious crash, we will always consider issues such as the layout of the road and the bridge in this case, whether there are any lighting or road markings issues, road surface, all of that sort of thing. So we will consider those issues. I'm aware that people have raised concerns about this bridge previously. it is too early at this stage to say whether or not any of those factors would have been involved.
And perhaps a careless driver, is that something you're looking at?
And again, it's something we need to look at. We need to look at, why did some vehicles manage to stop, why did others not? Could be a whole host of reasons for that. It's too early really to start saying a certain thing caused it or somebody's done anything wrong, but certainly we need to look at all those issues.
How are conditions at the moment? Obviously it's bright sunshine now, but earlier it was thick fog.
It was very thick fog. My understanding from the initial responders is the visibility was down to about 25 metres. And of course you're up on an elevated section across a bridge there, number of vehicles involved, so really quite hazardous.
Fantastic. And when can you sort of give an update as to the progress of the investigation?
It is likely to be a number of days, I think, for our investigators to look at kind of where all the vehicles ended up and any likely hypothesis of what has happened. So probably, because of the scale of this incident, probably several days before we have an idea.